What if Mars,
Fell before we ever rose?
long before the Earth cradled human breath, and long before the first campfire stories curled into the night sky, another world may have whispered its last? Mars, now barren, rusted, and silent, was not always so still. What if it was once alive, not just with water and winds, but with minds, with myths, with memory? Tonight, we drift far beyond the noise of Earth, through the cold quiet of space, to a red planet that may have lived, lost, and vanished, long before humanity ever opened its eyes. Could a Martian civilization have flourished in the deep past? Could ruins still linger beneath its dust? Might their fall echo as a warning or a mirror to what lies ahead for us? Let us journey into the forgotten silence, where time unravels and secrets sleep beneath stone and storm. Close your eyes, breathe deeply.
And imagine a time
When Mars was not a tomb, but a cradle. Long ago, before the Earth was touched by language, before pyramids pierced the sky or fire danced in the palms of man, another world may have stirred with ancient breath.
Mars, our quiet, rust-red neighbor, drifts silently through the vastness of space, battered by time and wind.
Today it seems barren and breathless, but what if we are only seeing its remains, not its story? Tonight we begin our descent into memory,
Into Mars not as it is,
but as it was. Not long after the birth of the solar system, the red planet held promise. It was smaller than Earth, but it had what mattered most: an atmosphere, warmth, and water. We are not speaking here in metaphors or myths, but in the language of rivers carved into stone,
of valleys as wide as continents.
of sediments that whisper of oceans long gone. We begin in the shadows of Valles Marineris, a scar across the Martian surface so vast it could stretch from New York to Los Angeles and beyond. This canyon system is over 4,000 kilometers long and 7 kilometers deep, carved not by tectonic shifts alone, but by something more fluid, more fleeting. Many scientists now believe water once rushed through these channels,
Not as a trickle,
but as torrents, floods, perhaps even seas. Nearby lies Olympus Mons, the tallest volcano in the solar system. Though now extinct, it once may have heated the surrounding land, melting frozen reservoirs and feeding ancient cycles of rainfall and rivers. Could such a dynamic landscape have hosted more than simple elements? Could it have held life, or something even more remarkable? Our journey takes us next to Gale Crater, a vast bowl of stone studied closely by NASA's Curiosity rover. Within its center lies Mount Sharp, a mound layered in sediment like pages in a forgotten book. These layers tell of water, not a single flood, but persistent, enduring presence. Clays and sulfates whisper of mineral-rich pools. Some scientists believe Gale Crater once held a lake stretching dozens of kilometers across, still waters reflecting alien skies. In the ancient Noachian era, some 4 billion years ago, Mars was warmer and wetter. This is no longer mere speculation. From orbiters above and rovers below, we see the signs: dried up river deltas, shorelines of vanished lakes, and minerals that only form in the presence of standing water. This was a world with rainfall.
perhaps even snow.
Beneath the southern highlands, vast networks of valley channels branch like veins, the fingerprints of flowing water. Some valleys meander gently, carved slowly over millennia. Others appear more sudden, the marks of catastrophic floods. What caused these floods remains unknown. Were they triggered by meteor impacts, sudden geothermal activity, or the collapse of subterranean ice reserves? In the northern hemisphere, scientists have long suspected the presence of an ancient ocean. Mars's topography suggests that nearly a third of the planet may once have been covered by water. The northern plains lie lower than the rest of the planet, as if the sea had once pooled there. The edges are scalloped and irregular, resembling ancient coastlines. Some studies have even found patterns of sediment and wave-like features, If Mars once held oceans, it would have had weather, tides, clouds, and perhaps life. But then something changed. Over millions of years, the atmosphere thinned. The warmth faded. Water, no longer bound by gravity or protected by magnetic fields, began to drift into space.
What caused this unraveling?
Mars once had a magnetic field, much like Earth's, but for reasons still debated, it vanished. Without that magnetic shield, solar winds stripped away the atmosphere. Pressure dropped. Liquid water evaporated or froze. The Martian sky dimmed, and the rivers ran dry. But was this transformation a slow geological fading, or did something more sudden intervene? Some believe a massive asteroid may have accelerated the change. The Hellas Impact Basin, one of the largest known impact craters in the solar system, suggests a collision of unimaginable force.
Could such an event have altered the climate, triggered volcanic winters?
Accelerated the collapse of life-supporting systems? Even today, the Martian winds whisper remnants of what once was. Dust storms rise and fall like ghosts over forgotten lands. Ice lies buried beneath the surface. In some regions, recurring slope lineae, mysterious dark streaks, hint at the seasonal presence of briny water, trickling, vanishing, returning.
Mars may be quiet.
But it is not finished.
What then lies beneath the dust?
Could the valleys and plains conceal more than minerals? Perhaps the remains of something that once observed, remembered, or even built? We do not yet know. But as we peer into the erosion and scars of this fading world, we are reminded that landscapes are not merely made by time, but by story, and every stone on Mars may hold a sentence from a forgotten chapter. In Part 2, we will journey deeper into the possibilities. If Mars once cradled life,
how far could that life have reached?
Was it microbial or monumental? Did it know language, memory, perhaps even loss? We'll descend into the implications of this ancient water world, and what secrets still sleep beneath its crimson sands. Imagine, for a moment, not just water, but watchers. If Mars once held rivers, lakes, and oceans, and if its climate persisted long enough, could it have nurtured more than the building blocks of life? Could it have allowed time for biology to stretch its fingers toward complexity?
Or even consciousness?
This question has haunted thinkers for generations. From early astronomers like Percival Lowell, who imagined Martian canals built by intelligent beings, to modern planetary scientists uncovering evidence of ancient water systems. The mystery remains suspended and delicate and unanswered. We begin Part 2 in a quieter place. Beneath the dust. For decades, planetary geologists have proposed that Mars may harbour what are known as subsurface aquifers, pockets of liquid water buried beneath layers of regolith and ice. In 2018, a radar instrument aboard the Mars Express orbiter detected a strange reflection beneath the south polar layered deposits. The data suggested the presence of liquid water, briny and trapped below the ice cap, a subterranean lake, 20 kilometers wide. Others have since debated the finding, but the possibility remains that below the frozen surface, water still flows.
And where there is stable water, even in darkness,
there can be life. On Earth, ecosystems flourish in extreme places or in the acidic waters of volcanic springs within Antarctic ice sheets and deep beneath the sea floor where sunlight never reaches. Bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms thrive in these shadowed worlds, sustained by chemistry alone. Could Mars, too, have once harbored such life? Or still do? As we turn our gaze back across the Martian terrain, certain regions pull at the imagination. Arabia Terra, for instance, a land pockmarked by impact craters and shaped by ancient winds, is home to clays that form only in neutral pH water, a condition considered ideal for sustaining life. Jezero Crater, where NASA's Perseverance rover now roams, once held a lake fed by rivers. The delta here still shows layered sediments, the kind that on Earth often trap and preserve signs of life. These aren't fantasies. They are fingerprints pressed softly into stone. And yet, if life did exist, what happened to it? Did it perish with the planet's decline? Did it evolve underground, away from radiation and cold? Or could it have reached further? Some researchers believe that Mars may have once enjoyed a biological window, a span of hundreds of millions of years during which conditions were not just habitable, but potentially fertile. In that time, microbial life could have evolved toward complexity, perhaps even intelligence, but without a magnetic shield, with volatile surface conditions and a thinning atmosphere, such life would have needed to retreat, or die, or perhaps it left. While this idea veers into the speculative, it is not without scientific shadow. The theory of panspermia, the notion that life can travel between planets on meteorites or comets, has gained traction in astrobiology. We know, for instance, that rocks from Mars have landed on Earth. Over 300 Martian meteorites have been identified, blasted from their homeworld by ancient impacts and carried across the Gulf of space. One such rock, ALH 84001, found in Antarctica in 1984, sparked global debate when scientists discovered microscopic structures resembling fossilized bacteria. The interpretation remains controversial, but it raised a profound question. Could Mars have seeded Earth, or Earth Mars?
Could we, in part, be Martian?
It is a possibility that unravels the boundary between worlds.
Life, after all, is not a local event.
It is a cosmic phenomenon. If it arose on Mars, it may have shared its origin with us. Or if Earth birthed life first, Mars may still carry fragments of it, blown outward by cataclysm. But for a civilization to rise, one that built, remembered, and perhaps even dreamed, it would have needed more than water. It would have needed time, stability, and the right environment for cultural evolution. Some believe that ancient Mars had just that. Before the great loss of its magnetic field, before the oceans fled and the skies thinned, Mars may have enjoyed a stable era, a few 100 million years, perhaps more, a period during which not only lakes and rivers formed, but possibly the conditions for sustained intelligence. Could something have risen during that window? Something that left no monuments, only the subtlest of echoes, in anomalous rock formations, buried signatures, or the chemical residue of long-vanished activity. And if such a civilization did rise, would we ever find it? Here lies the challenge. Mars has no plate tectonics to recycle its crust. But billions of years of wind, impact, and erosion have worn away its past. Dust lies kilometers deep in places. Rovers can explore only inches below the surface. The secrets of the Martian deep remain untouched. We may one day drill into ancient sediments, uncovering organics or even artifacts. But for now, we are left with clues and the poetry of possibility. As we close this chapter, we are left with a portrait not of a dead planet, but of a dying one. One that may have wept rivers and storms long before Earth heard its first thunder. The transformation of Mars, from waterworld to wasteland, was not sudden, but it was absolute. And in its silence, it offers us both a question and a mirror. What happens to a world that loses its breath? And might our own pale blue dot walk a similar path, if we forget to listen to the wind? In our next chapter, we shift our gaze from rocks and rivers to the strange, the unexplainable. Join us as we explore images and anomalies, the mysterious shapes, patterns, and structures that some believe are not natural, but crafted. The winds of Mars have long since stilled the ripples of its ancient seas. In the previous chapter, we followed those whispers through canyons and craters carved by long-vanished waters to a time when Mars was more than dust and silence. A time when it may have lived, breathed, and perhaps watched. But now we ask a more delicate question, not one of water, but of presence.
Are there signs that something once walked Mars?
We drift now slowly over the scarred and rust-red face of the planet. The sun sets low on the horizon, casting long shadows across a timeless land. In this hush, we begin to notice shapes. patterns that catch the eye then vanish.
Lines too straight, angles too sharp.
Symmetries that seem to defy the casual chaos of geology. Could these be natural formations, or traces of something made? It was in 1976, during the Viking 1 mission, that one such image would ignite this question in earnest. As the orbiter passed over a region known as Cydonia, it captured a photograph that would echo across decades, a maser that in the low sun cast the uncanny image of a face, a human-like visage staring skyward, its eyes deep set, its features almost sculptural. NASA dismissed the image as an illusion of light and shadow, a common phenomenon known as pareidolia, where the human mind finds meaning in randomness. And yet, the resemblance was striking, not just to a face, but to our face. Later, higher resolution images would show the maser to be irregular, weathered, and far less defined than that first haunting photo. And still the fascination lingered. Nearby, other shapes emerged in the data. Geometric ridges, clustered mounds arranged in near triangular patterns, and long, straight features that some interpreted as possible roads or walls. Collectively, these features came to be called the Cydonia anomalies. Some researchers, though not within the mainstream, proposed that they might be ruins, the remains of ancient structures worn by eons but still grasping at form. Skepticism remains strong, and rightly so. The surface of Mars is battered by impact, etched by erosion, and sculpted by billions of years of wind. Nature is no stranger to symmetry. Ice crystals, basalt columns, even honeycomb rock formations. Earth holds many examples of regularity born without intention. Yet Cydonia is not alone. Thousands of kilometers away, in the region of Terra Meridiani, the Opportunity rover photographed a peculiar grouping of spherical objects scattered across the Martian soil. Nicknamed blueberries, these hematite-rich spheres puzzled scientists. They are believed to be concretions formed by mineral-laden water. But their distribution, size, and odd uniformity prompted fringe speculation. Could they be debris?
Seeds of an unknown kind?
The prevailing explanation is geological, but certainty remains elusive. Other anomalies have surfaced over time. In the rocky landscape of Gusev Crater, and later in Gale Crater, both spirit and curiosity captured images of curious rock formations. What looked like stacked slabs, rectangular blocks, and even a doorway-like void carved into a cliffside. The so-called doorway, photographed in 2022, spurred brief global intrigue. Was it the entrance to a long-buried structure? NASA responded with caution and reason. The feature was no more than a narrow fracture, a break in the sediment likely caused by stress and erosion. Yet, it raised an important question. How do we know when a line becomes a wall or a ruin? Some point to the Becquerel crater, where layered rock strata form almost architectural terraces. Others highlight symmetrical hill formations or long parallel lines observed in high-rise satellite imagery. A few even study crater chains and pit alignments for signs of subsurface collapse or artificial tunnels. Throughout, the boundary between the natural and the constructed remains blurred. Mars, after all, is alien. Its geology is not bound to our expectations. Its features may appear artificial to our human eyes, but that does not make them so. And yet we must ask, if a civilization did rise and fall on ancient Mars, and if millions, even billions of years have passed since, what would remain? Stone may outlast memory, but not all stone. Without preservation, time crumbles all things. Even on Earth, our oldest known structures, from Göbekli Tepe to the megaliths of Malta, are no more than a few thousand years old. On Mars, the ravages of time would be far more severe. No protective atmosphere, no biological repair, only wind, radiation, and the silence of entropy. But what if something remains beneath? In Part 2, we'll descend further into these questions, exploring what may lie below the Martian surface. We'll consider radar scans that hint at buried shapes, alignments that defy natural patterning, and what it would take for true ruins to endure on another world. Because if there are footprints in the Martian dust, they may not be visible from above. They may be waiting deep beneath the veil. Beneath the stillness of the Martian plains, under layers of dust and sediment hardened by time and wind, lie secrets we cannot yet touch. If ancient Mars did host intelligence, even briefly, then its traces, its tools, its temples would not rest in the open,
not after billions of years.
Instead, we would need to look beneath the surface to probe what lies hidden in the silence below. And so we follow the instruments. In recent decades, Mars has been quietly scanned by the invisible eyes of ground-penetrating radar. The Sharad instrument aboard NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and MARSIS aboard the European Space Agency's Mars Express have both mapped beneath the Martian crust, revealing subsurface layers, some of ice, some of rock, and some
undefined.
Among the most curious of these scans comes again from the region near the South Polar ice cap. In 2018, as we touched on earlier, radar pulses suggested the presence of a subsurface lake, a large body of salty liquid water trapped beneath nearly 15 kilometers of frozen carbon dioxide and ice. Liquid water on modern Mars is a revelation on its own, but it also presents a deeper question. What else lies buried with it? Structures, if they exist, would not likely be stone palaces or preserved towers. They would be fragments, perhaps, geometric voids, unnatural regularities, or alignments that resist chance. Indeed, some radar anomalies have sparked whispers among fringe researchers, echoes that return too clearly, voids where none should be.
Angles beneath the regolith that hint, just faintly, at shape.
These suggestions are not accepted by the mainstream scientific community. The data is thin, the interpretations are often speculative, but the mystery remains unresolved. And in exploration, the unknown is the door we keep knocking on. Some turn to Earth for comparison. They point to Göbekli Tepe, buried for millennia beneath Turkish soil, mistaken for a hill until excavation revealed an ancient sanctuary built 12,000 years ago, older than writing, older than agriculture. They ask, if such a site could hide beneath Earth's surface for so long, under the tread of shepherds and time,
how many more might exist, not on Earth, but on Mars?
Others look to tectonic maps of Mars, noting magnetic anomalies that suggest a complex history of crustal movement. Could these shifts have buried structures, entire cities even, beneath landslides or volcanic flows? The Tharsis region, home to massive volcanoes and fissures, may have once been a cradle of activity, and if so, it may now serve as a tomb. One compelling line of inquiry involves pattern recognition. Researchers using machine learning have begun scanning thousands of Martian satellite images, not looking for faces or pyramids, but for symmetry, ratio, and alignment. Algorithms trained to detect geometric regularity can sometimes identify patterns too subtle for the human eye. In certain regions, these programs have highlighted clusters of formations that share distances, orientations, or angular relations suggestive of planning. Does this prove anything?
No, but it invites the question again. When does nature stop and intention begin?
To walk further into this terrain, we must be cautious. Many of the most dramatic claims about Martian ruins have been found to rest on visual illusion. Our minds are wired to find meaning in chaos, to see faces in clouds, cities in rocks, meaning where none was placed. Pareidolia is not deception. It is a mirror showing us our own longing for connection. And yet, the best explorers are those who listen to the unlikely, even when they remain skeptical. After all, for centuries we looked at the surface of Mars through blurry lenses. We imagined canals, civilizations, Martian watchers. Those visions were romantic and wrong, but they were not foolish. They were part of a deeper question, one we are still asking with finer tools and quieter voices. What if we are not the first? What if intelligence is not unique but cyclical? What if footprints remain, hidden not in dust, but in data? The late Arthur C. Clarke, co-author of 2001: A Space Odyssey, once said of the face on Mars, I'm sufficiently skeptical to believe that it's probably a natural formation, but I would be the first to cheer if it turned out to be artificial. His words echo our own position, wonder tempered by reason. As we close this chapter, we leave behind the mesas and boulders, the whispers of faces and the dreams of forgotten cities. But we carry with us the growing sense that Mars is more than a dead world. It is a memory, encrypted, weathered, and still unread. In the next chapter we turn not to rock or data, but to story. Because long before we had satellites or science, we had myth. And across cultures, across centuries, myths speak of warlike gods, of red stars, of beings who fell from the sky.
Could it be
That Earth remembers Mars in its dreams? Long before telescopes peered into the heavens, before satellites skimmed the red dust of Mars, and even before stone temples rose from fertile valleys, the sky was a canvas, painted not with data, but with stories. And among these stories, told beside firelight and woven into sacred chants, a single celestial body burned brighter than most: the red planet, Mars. It shimmered with a crimson hue, restless and strange, unlike the steady stars. It moved, wandered across the heavens, earning it a name in every culture. Yet it was more than a speck in the dark. To many ancient peoples, Mars was a presence, a warrior, a messenger, a god of fire or blood. And this raises a curious question. What if ancient peoples remembered Mars, not with measurements, but with memory? Not scientific memory, but mythic memory, passed down through story, through symbol, through song. Could it be that long before we touched Mars with machines, we knew it through myth, and perhaps, on some level, remembered its fall? Tonight, we travel through the tapestry of time, from Africa to India to the Mediterranean, tracing the threads of ancient myth that may, just may, echo the fate of a once living world. We begin in West Africa among the Dogon people of Mali. High in the cliffs of Bandiagara, the Dogon have passed down complex cosmological knowledge for generations. They speak of Nomo, ancestral beings who came from the sky, bringing order, language, and wisdom. But what stirs deeper wonder is their ancient awareness of Sirius B, a white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye and only confirmed by modern astronomers in the 20th century. Some claim that the Dogon's knowledge of Sirius B, its orbital period and position, could not have been derived through early observation. Was this knowledge inherited, passed down from a forgotten contact?
a memory of visitors from the stars?
Among Dogon stories, the sky is not just a background, but a realm of origin, a place from which beings fell to earth in watery vessels. The Nomo are described as amphibious, luminous, and descending in a spinning arc. These motifs of falling, of fire, of water, of descent, echo ancient cross-cultural myths of celestial visitors. But what if these beings from the sky were not divine metaphors, but cultural recollections of something more literal? Could they represent survivors or emissaries from a collapsing Mars? We move now to India, where the Vedic text, among the oldest sacred writings on Earth, speak not just of gods and rituals, but of cosmic battles, flying machines, and devastating celestial wars. In the Rig Veda and Mahabharata, we find tales of the Asuras and Devas, warring beings of the sky often linked to fire, flight, and destruction. The skies are not peaceful. They thunder with vimanas, weapons of light, and iron cities in the heavens. One striking passage describes a weapon so powerful it could reduce entire cities to ash, its heat said to be brighter than 1,000 suns, often compared by modern readers to descriptions of nuclear explosions. Could these texts be metaphorical renderings of real cosmic catastrophes, or are they dramatizations of historical traumas remembered through the lens of the mythic imagination? Some scholars suggest that these Vedic narratives may encode deep time memory, stories that preserve events not just on Earth,
But in the sky.
And among the many heavenly bodies referenced in the Vedas, the planet Mars, Mangalas, is feared and venerated as a bringer of war, conflict, and upheaval. He's not simply a planetary force, but a wound in the sky. We travel now westward to ancient Greece, where Mars was named Ares, the god of war.
Ares was not celebrated like other Olympians. He was feared, impulsive, destructive.
His presence meant chaos. To the Romans he became Mars, a more orderly figure. Still warlike, but also protective, fatherly, divine. The god from whom the Roman people claimed descent? Mars was not just a star. He was an ancestor. Is it possible that these myths reflect more than cultural psychology? Is it possible that Mars became the god of war because the red planet itself was a world torn by cataclysm? When we consider myth through the lens of planetary memory, we begin to see curious patterns. Across distant cultures, separated by oceans and time, Mars is linked with blood, battle, fire, and fall.
Always the destroyer, the angry one, the wounded one.
Why would a wandering star evoke such specific and violent associations? Was it the red hue alone, or something deeper? A memory passed from mind to mind, generation to generation, until its origin was forgotten, but its symbols remained? In Part 2, we'll journey even further into these mysteries. We'll look at Babylonian omens, the legends of ancient Egypt, and examine the idea that Earth itself may carry mythic echoes of Mars's downfall, not as observers of the sky, but as witnesses to its fate. If Mars did fall before humanity rose, perhaps our earliest stories were written not in stone, but in remembrance. As we drift deeper into the cradle of ancient myth, we continue to ask the question, what if Earth's oldest stories are not only about gods, but about planets? Not metaphor, but memory. Poetic reflections of events too vast, too terrible to be remembered in any other way. If Mars once lived and fell, might Earth's earliest peoples have witnessed it, from distant skies or closer still? We begin again in the ancient Near East, where Babylonian astronomers carefully tracked the stars. Among their clay tablets and celestial omens, Mars appears again and again as the star of judgment, known to them as Nergal. Nergal was no gentle deity. He was a god of war, of pestilence, and the underworld. His approach in the sky was feared as an omen of ruin. In one passage, his celestial rising is linked with burning cities, broken kings, and the shifting of empires. Why would a planet provoke such terror? Mars was not the brightest object in the sky, not the largest, nor the most erratic, but its redness, its unpredictable brightness, and its apparent retrograde motion made it feel alive, volatile, and dangerous. A star that did not obey the others. Some have proposed a radical idea that Mars, in some distant epoch, may have undergone a planetary catastrophe witnessed by early humans. That its surface, torn by massive impacts or upheaval, flared briefly in a way that could be seen from Earth. Perhaps not in exact detail, but as a red light that surged and faded.
As a presence.
In Egypt, Mars was associated with Set, the chaotic twin of Osiris, the bringer of storms, dismemberment, and disorder. Set, too, was red. He was linked with foreign lands, deserts, and death. Yet, even in his darkness, he was necessary, the opposition that gave meaning to harmony. Did these ancient archetypes arise from the psyche alone, or were they inherited from cycles we no longer recall? Many researchers of archaeoastronomy point to the curious consistency in how Mars is remembered across time. From the Americas to Mesopotamia, the red planet was not a place of peace. In Mesoamerican lore, Mars was linked to blood rituals and celestial battle. In Norse myth, it became Tyr, a war god who gave his hand to the wolf of fate.
Always fire.
Always blood.
Always on war.
But what if the war was not human? In his 1950 work, Worlds in Collision, independent scholar Immanuel Velikovsky proposed a controversial theory, that ancient myths encode planetary catastrophes including close passes or collisions between Mars, Venus, and Earth. Though heavily criticized by the scientific establishment, Velikovsky's core idea remains provocative, that myths may contain real memories of planetary upheaval. He argued that Mars once passed near Earth, causing floods, climate shifts, and chaos remembered as divine wrath. While his mechanics were flawed, the question lingers: could there be a kernel of truth beneath the tale? Modern astronomy has uncovered strong evidence for massive impacts on Mars, including the Hellas Basin, a scar 2,300 kilometers wide and nearly 9 kilometers deep. This is not a wound born gently. It speaks of violence on a planetary scale, perhaps from the earliest days of the solar system or later. If Mars once hosted life, perhaps even civilization, could such a cataclysm have ended it? And if so, would echoes of that fall ripple across the solar system, perhaps not as energy or debris, but as myth? Let us imagine a scenario quietly, like a bedtime story lost in deep time. A world, once blue and alive, burns. Its oceans steam into clouds. Its fields turn to frost. Its people, whatever they were, gaze upward, not to the sky, but toward escape.
A few survive.
Perhaps they fall, perhaps they arrive. And on a younger Earth, the children of clay look up and remember, not with telescopes,
Not with equations.
but with fear, reverence, and story. We cannot prove such things. Not yet, perhaps not ever. But as we wander through the oldest myths of Earth, we find Mars not only as a planet, but as a scar in the collective memory of humanity. The Red Wanderer, the wounded god, the bringer of war. Was it always myth? Or was it once truth dulled and dreamlike through time? As we close this chapter, we turn from stories to the sky itself. In the next part of our journey, we look not at myths, but maps, because some of the oldest and strangest maps on Earth contain things they should not. Coastlines before the ice, lands no longer above sea level, and details far too precise for their supposed age. Could Earth's oldest cartographers have seen more than just our world? Could they have known
Of another?
the wind over Mars carries no song. It is thin, almost soundless, brushing against stone that has not moved in 1 billion years. And yet, if you listen with the quiet mind of night, you may begin to feel what once was, not in the dust or rock, but in what is absent. In our previous chapter, we wandered through the myths of Earth, ancient voices that spoke of red gods and fire from the heavens. But tonight we step away from story and into silence. We ask a question that echoes across all worlds that have ever turned toward the sun. How does a civilization die? What would it mean for an entire world to fall before we ever stood? We know Mars was not always so barren. There was water, there was warmth. There were rivers and deltas, polar lakes, and perhaps even seasons. And with such a world came the possibility, faint but real, that life rose there. Not life in the microbial depths alone, but higher thinking life.
Life that built, that reached,
That watched the skies as we do now.
and then it ended. Not suddenly, perhaps.
Not with a single flame or strike, but slowly, like a long twilight.
A fading breath.
The clues lie deep beneath Mars's crust. Planetary scientists believe Mars once had a magnetic field, a vast global shield much like Earth's, protecting it from the solar wind. This shield was born from its core, once molten and alive with motion. But at some point something changed. The core cooled, the magnetic field collapsed. And with that collapse, Mars began to die. Without its magnetic field, the solar wind, that constant, invisible stream of charged particles from the sun, began stripping away the Martian atmosphere. Bit by bit, the air grew thinner. The warmth bled away, and the oceans, no longer held by pressure and temperature, slowly vanished into vapor, then into space. We have seen this process through NASA's MAVEN mission, which observed the ongoing loss of Mars's atmosphere to the solar wind. Even today, the planet still bleeds, gently, invisibly, into the void. But what would such a decline mean for a civilization? If intelligent life existed during Mars's more temperate era, it would not have perished overnight. They would have seen it coming, the long fade, the sky thinning, the waters receding. They would have fought to adapt.
And in that fight,
perhaps we see a reflection of ourselves. Imagine a world where every year grows colder, where the seas shrink, where crops fail, where dust storms sweep across crumbling cities, once proud, now rusting beneath an empty sky. A world of engineers, priests, artists, and mothers, all trying, in their own ways, to survive the fall. Would they burrow underground to escape the radiation and wind? Would they build vast machines to hold in the warmth, or launch vessels in desperation toward distant Earth-like orbits? Would they record their story, not in books, but in signal or stone or myth? And what would we see now from our distant perch on Earth? Perhaps only the last flickers, the anomalies, the patterns, the silence. Not proof, but absence filled with shape. Some researchers, both within science and at its fringes, have proposed that the demise of Mars may not have been entirely natural. Could a war or a catastrophic technological failure have hastened the collapse? Could the very beings who built that ancient Martian world have played a role in its unraveling? In 1984, a curious document emerged from a US government experiment in remote viewing, a form of psychic reconnaissance. One viewer, when asked to describe coordinates linked to Mars, spoke of a large obelisk of very tall beings, thin and wearing strange clothes, and of a planet in the midst of catastrophe, seeking shelter, seeking escape. It is not scientific evidence, but it is part of the strange, soft chorus that continues to whisper that perhaps something happened. Whether through natural entropy or a final mistake, Mars fell. Its cities, if ever there were any, returned to dust, its oceans to air,
its air to the stars.
And all of it happened long before we rose, before Earth built its pyramids, before it painted its caves, before our first breath. In Part 2, we will look more closely at the hypothetical end, not just as collapse, but as intention. We will explore the unsettling idea that the fall of Mars may have driven its inhabitants to act, to leave, to warn, or to begin again. And we will ask, if Mars once fell, what did it leave behind for us to find? If Mars truly fell before we ever rose, then we are the inheritors not just of Earth's silence, but of Mars's, a silence layered in time, waiting like sediment beneath our own awareness. But perhaps in that silence there are fragments. In the quiet hours of speculation, some have wondered not only how Mars died, but whether it left anything behind. If a civilization, however alien, sensed its own demise approaching, what would it do? Would it hide? Would it fight? Or would it send something forth? A message, an arc, a hope? One idea, recurring across both scientific and mythic thought, is the possibility of exodus. If Mars once had oceans, a thick atmosphere, and warmth, it may have sustained life for billions of years before Earth even cooled. If that life became intelligent, then perhaps facing extinction it looked outward,
toward us.
This leads us into one of the oldest and most enduring whispers in planetary folklore, that Mars may not simply be a lost world, but a mother world. That in the desperate twilight of its dying age, something, someone, may have escaped its surface and found shelter on Earth. Some suggest this idea finds strange resonance in ancient myths. In Sumerian tablets, for instance, the Anunnaki are said to have come from a heavenly realm, descending to shape human destiny. In Egyptian cosmology, the god Osiris is linked with Orion, and his descent to Earth is accompanied by tales of renewal following death, themes that echo exile, survival, and the attempt to rebuild. These are stories, symbols, but in them some see faint impressions of something older than civilization, a memory not of Earth, but of another world's end. The concept of panspermia, Life traveling from planet to planet via impact or intention is now a scientific discussion, not merely science fiction. Studies have shown that Mars, having suffered massive asteroid impacts, could have ejected material into space, some of which may have reached Earth. Martian meteorites have been found in Antarctica and elsewhere. Fragments of Mars on our own world. Could some of those rocks have carried not just elements, but codes, the very seeds of biology? This is the Martian seeding hypothesis, or pilot that life, or even the precursors of life, came to Earth from Mars. If so, then in some strange, poetic sense, Mars is not only a failed world, but our ancestor. Others take this further still. Some propose that survivors, biological or artificial, may have directly arrived, not simply as meteorites, but as voyagers. Not only is this a speculative notion, but one for which we currently have no empirical evidence, yet it continues to haunt the margins of science and the edges of myth, because it speaks to something deeper. The fear that we may someday share Mars's fate, and the hope that even in ruin, some form of endurance is possible. Could this be why Mars remains such an obsession?
Not merely because it is close, not just because it is possible to reach,
But because, at some level, Mars is a mirror, a reflection of our own fragility, a warning in stone and silence. Even the red color, so often associated with blood, fire, and war, reminds us that not all falls are peaceful. Some are violent, some self-inflicted. Many researchers studying planetary climate collapse look to Mars for cautionary tales. It lost its magnetic field, and thus its air. But could a civilization in its last centuries have accelerated that collapse? Through industry, through conflict, through irreversible changes to its biosphere?
It's a possibility that casts a long shadow, one not just of mystery, but of lesson.
Perhaps the greatest gift Mars has left us is not data, but reminder that even advanced life is not immune to time, that nature once broken may not always return. That intelligence, if not matched by wisdom, is a fragile flame. So we look up at the red planet not only with longing, but with reverence. A world that may have once bloomed, now frozen, now quiet, now bare. And we ask again, what did it know that we have yet to learn? As we drift toward the next chapter, we turn our gaze to another curious mystery, not of planets, but of parchment and charts. Because some of the oldest maps on Earth show lands that should not exist, islands beneath the Antarctic ice, and coastlines unrecognizable to modern eyes. Are these errors,
Imaginings?
or echoes of something once seen by eyes no longer human? As we turn once more to the quiet, rust-colored world that hangs like a distant lantern in our night sky, the mysteries of Mars beckon us with a gentle, enduring whisper. The red planet, with its endless dunes and ancient valleys, has long captured human imagination, not just as a distant neighbor, but as a realm that may once have hosted wonders far beyond our current understanding. Tonight, we delve into a tale woven from dreams and science alike. The story of lost technologies buried beneath those crimson sands, relics of a civilization whose echoes might still linger just beneath the surface. In this chapter, we explore the tantalizing possibilities of what might have been, what tools, machines, and wonders a Martian civilization could have created in a time long before our own. We wander through the quiet, enigmatic traces left in rock and dust, piecing together whispers from myths, ancient observations, and the silent language of geology. Could great engines have once hummed beneath the Martian sky? Could massive constructions have shaped the very face of the planet, now hidden beneath layers of ice and sand? Humanity's fascination with Mars is not a recent affair. As early as the 19th century, astronomers peered through telescopes, noting dark lines crisscrossing the surface, what were called canals. Though later revealed to be optical illusions or natural formations, These early observations sparked imaginations and theories. Could these lines be evidence of ancient irrigation, vast engineering projects, or even cities? Such notions laid the groundwork for a vision of Mars as a world once teeming with life and intellect, a world with secrets entombed in rock and ice, waiting patiently for us to uncover. To approach these ideas seriously, we must first consider the geological history of Mars itself. The planet's surface, with its towering volcanoes and deep valleys, tells a story of violent pasts, floods that reshaped the land, ice ages that froze vast reservoirs of water, and dust storms that swept away traces of what might have come before. The mighty Valles Marineris, a canyon system thousands of kilometers long, hints at forces immense enough to carve a landscape suitable for life or civilization. Beneath the surface, vast deposits of ice lie in the polar caps and hidden underground. Could these cold depths guard relics of ancient technology, preserved far from the harshness of the surface? In the mid-20th century, pioneers of science and imagination like Nikola Tesla and Isaac Asimov cast their eyes toward Mars with hope and wonder. Tesla, known for his groundbreaking work in electricity and wireless energy, speculated on signals from Mars, pondering whether intelligence could exist beyond Earth. Asimov, a master storyteller and thinker, wove visions of Martian societies, sometimes lost, sometimes surviving in secret, into his tales. Their beliefs fueled a generation's dreams of rediscovering technologies far advanced beyond our own, hidden in the sands or beneath the ice, archaeological missions on Earth, and the exploration of our own ancient ruins teach us that civilizations often leave clues in the form of structures, tools, and artifacts. But what would a Martian archaeological site look like? With the planet's thin atmosphere and relentless winds, traditional organic materials might have long since decayed, but durable metals or crystalline structures could remain. The search for these artifacts takes us to craters and caverns, to the shadows of Olympus Mons and the slopes of ancient riverbeds, places where water once flowed and perhaps machines once operated. One fascinating hypothesis suggests that planetary-scale engineering projects may have existed on Mars, vast constructs designed to alter the climate or harness energy. Could enormous mirrors or reflectors have been placed in orbit or on the surface to warm the planet? Could vast subterranean cities have been carved to protect inhabitants from radiation and dust storms? These questions blur the lines between science and speculation, but they are grounded in the very real challenges Mars poses to life. The idea of lost technology here is not merely fantasy, but a lens through which we can understand what might have been necessary to survive and thrive on this stark world. Further clues may lie within the strange anomalies detected by modern probes, unusual mineral deposits, geometric formations, and unexplained electromagnetic signals. While many of these can be explained by natural processes, some remain puzzles that spark debate among scientists and enthusiasts alike. Are these the eroded remains of ancient machinery, or simply the exquisite handiwork of nature over billions of years? In contemplating these mysteries, we are reminded that every stone on Mars could be a fragment of a vast and intricate story, one that stretches back through the mists of time. Even the planet's great ice caps may hold secrets. Beneath layers of frozen carbon dioxide and water ice, there could be preserved chambers or tunnels, remnants of shelters built to endure the harshest seasons. Ice, after all, is an excellent preserver. It shields delicate materials from radiation and erosion. Here, buried under miles of ice, might lie technologies that defy our understanding, locked away in silence until the day they are revealed. As we drift further into the night and the red planet's cold embrace, these visions of lost technologies inspire both caution and hope. They remind us of the fragility of civilizations and the enduring possibility that we might one day unlock Martian secrets, not through wild fantasy but through patient, diligent exploration. The sands of Mars, ever shifting and timeless, may one day yield their treasures, telling stories not only of what was, but of what could be again. This reflection invites us to journey onward, to the very heart of these mysteries, the ruins and relics that might yet be uncovered beneath Mars's surface, symbols of a once glorious past or the spark of a future, waiting to be born as the crimson sands continue their eternal drift across the Martian plains. We turn our gaze deeper into the possibility of uncovering remnants of a lost civilization's technological marvels, remnants that may forever alter our understanding of Mars and perhaps of ourselves. Our exploration delves into the most compelling evidence, the mysteries yet unresolved, and the dreams that drive us ever forward into the silent dust. One of the most fascinating concepts proposed by researchers and visionaries alike is the idea of planetary engineering, grand-scale projects designed to transform Mars itself. Unlike Earth, where technology is often built to adapt to nature, these hypothetical Martian technologies might have sought to alter the environment on a planetary scale. Vast networks of machines could have harnessed geothermal energy from beneath Mars's crust, or redirected underground water reservoirs to nurture life. We imagine enormous domes or shielded cities where atmospheric pressure was artificially maintained, powered by technologies now lost to time. While direct evidence remains elusive, the surface itself offers clues that some form of engineering or manipulation might once have occurred. Patterns etched into the rock, symmetrical formations found in satellite imagery, and underground caverns revealed by radar all hint at a world that was at one time more than just barren and desolate. Could these have been the remnants of gigantic machines, massive irrigation systems, weather regulators, or energy collectors, once humming with activity beneath a sky painted with two moons? Then there are the enigmatic underground ice deposits. Radar studies from orbiters, such as Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, reveal vast frozen reservoirs beneath the surface, including ancient glaciers preserved for millions of years. Ice here may be more than frozen water. It could be a time capsule, preserving ancient artifacts, structures, or even technological systems that sustained a lost civilization. The cold, silent depths might shield fragile materials that tell stories of Martian ingenuity, metal alloys resistant to corrosion, crystalline data storage devices, or energy cores dormant but intact. In the quiet search for such treasures, we are reminded of our own world's history. Civilizations like those of ancient Mesopotamia or the Indus Valley left traces beneath layers of earth, waiting centuries or millennia to be uncovered. On Mars, the challenge is far greater, but the principle remains: the past may still speak, though in whispers and shadows to those who listen carefully. The interplay of myth and science also colors our quest. Ancient myths, whether earthly or speculative Martian, speak of cataclysms, floods, fires, and ice ages that reshaped landscapes and erased histories. Mars, too, bears the scars of violent floods that carved out massive channels and basins. Could these catastrophes have led to the loss or deliberate burial of technologies too fragile to survive the planet's shifting fortunes? The concept of a great reset on Mars echoes our understanding of Earth's own deep past, where epochs of ice and fire erased the world we once knew. Furthermore, the dreams of thinkers like Tesla and Asimov remind us that the imagination fuels scientific discovery. Tesla's speculations about wireless energy transmission and cosmic signals inspire modern scientists to consider whether electromagnetic anomalies on Mars might be relics of ancient communication networks. Asimov's stories, blending the scientific with the fantastical, encourage us to ponder the possibility of a hidden legacy, machines or data repositories sealed away, waiting for explorers to awaken them. Today, the exploration of Mars through rovers, orbiters, and upcoming human missions continues to push the boundaries of what we know. Each new discovery, from unexpected mineral deposits to sudden methane spikes, adds a brushstroke to a portrait still being painted. Whether these findings point to biological life, technological remnants, or natural phenomena remains an open question, but the intrigue persists. As we close this chapter of our nocturnal journey beneath the crimson sands, we are left with a profound sense of wonder and possibility. The lost technologies of Mars, whether myth or reality, symbolize not only the mysteries of a distant world, but the enduring human desire to explore, understand, and connect with something greater than ourselves. Beneath the silent dunes and frozen ice lies a story waiting to be told, a story of ancient ingenuity, resilience, and perhaps hope. And so, as our thoughts drift away from the red planet and toward the next enigma awaiting discovery, we prepare to turn the page. Ahead lies another chapter of our cosmic bedtime story, inviting us to explore new wonders and mysteries that shape our understanding of the universe. Beneath the calm, crimson skies of Mars, where the winds carry whispers of forgotten epochs, there lingers a question as profound as the vastness of the cosmos itself. If life once thrived on this distant world, could its story have reached beyond its barren plains? Could the inhabitants of Mars have gazed upward, not only in wonder, but with a yearning to escape, to send their essence, their very selves, across the silent gulf of space? Tonight, as we settle into the gentle embrace of history's mysteries, we explore the evocative possibility that Mars was not the end of a civilization, but a beginning, a point of departure. This chapter invites you to imagine a time when Martians, faced with the slow unraveling of their world, might have sought new horizons. Whether through desperate flight or purposeful exploration, could they have reached Earth or perhaps other realms carrying with them the seeds of life and memory? The concept that life might travel from one world to another is ancient yet startling. Known as panspermia, this theory suggests that life, or its building blocks, can hitch a ride on cosmic debris, such as meteorites or comets, crossing the vast distances between planets. Mars, with its history of cataclysmic impacts, provides a fitting stage for such an event. Millions of years ago, violent collisions with asteroids could have blasted Martian rocks into space, some destined to collide with Earth, delivering microscopic life or genetic material hidden within. Meteorites from Mars have indeed been found on Earth, fragments that tell silent tales of their distant origin. Scientists have studied these pieces with great care, seeking traces of ancient microbial life or chemical signatures that suggest biology once thrived on Mars. Some meteorites show tiny cavities, shapes or structures that stir the imagination. Were these the microscopic fossils of Martian life? Though debate continues, these stones provide a tangible link between two worlds, a celestial message carried across time and space. Beyond the scientific, the idea of Martian exile resonates deeply with our own human story of migration, survival, and the hope for renewal. Could a civilization confronted with environmental collapse have chosen escape over extinction? The thought extends beyond physical survival to philosophical reflection. If Martians found refuge elsewhere, might we, on Earth, carry their heritage within us? Could the very essence of life on our planet be intertwined with that of Mars, linked by a cosmic lineage spanning eons? This possibility invites us to reflect on the nature of identity itself. Our DNA, the code that shapes who we are, may carry whispers of distant stars and worlds, encoding journeys taken long before humanity walked the Earth. While the scientific evidence is still emerging, the notion that we may share a connection with Martian ancestors kindles a profound sense of unity, one that stretches beyond terrestrial boundaries, uniting us with the cosmos. The philosophical implications reach even further. The silence we now hear from Mars might not signify an end, but rather a pause, a quiet transmission awaiting our understanding. Perhaps the traces of Martian civilization are embedded not only in rocks and dust, but in the very fabric of life that surrounds us. The cosmos, vast and enigmatic, seems to echo with these quiet possibilities, stories waiting patiently to be told across the silent void. In this narrative, Mars becomes more than a distant planet. It is a beacon of continuity, a bridge connecting past and future, life and legacy. Our exploration of Mars today, with robotic emissaries and plans for human footprints, is itself a continuation of this ancient story. Each discovery peels back layers of mystery, revealing hints that life's journey might be far more intertwined across worlds than we ever imagined. The challenges of space travel and survival are immense. Yet the dreams of past Martian voyagers, or at least the possibility that such dreams existed, fill us with a quiet hope. Could the ancient Martians have sent probes, seeds, or even themselves beyond their shrinking world? Could Earth be a refuge or a new beginning born of cosmic desperation and hope? As we close this first part of our journey, we find ourselves suspended between what is known and what is possible, between the silence of space and the echoes that ripple through it. Our understanding is still unfolding, shaped by the quiet labor of science and the boundless reach of imagination. This delicate balance invites us to continue to delve deeper into the mysteries of panspermia, the evidence embedded in meteorites, and the philosophical reflections that inspire us to look beyond the stars, seeking not only answers, but a connection to the ancient echoes that bind us all. As the quiet cosmos stretches endlessly before us, we return to the profound question of Martian escape and its echoes woven through time and space. If Mars once harbored life, if its inhabitants faced inevitable decline, what traces might they have left behind, not only in stone and soil, but carried upon celestial winds to new worlds? The theory of panspermia, while still under active exploration, offers a compelling framework. It suggests that life may not be confined to a single cradle, but could travel across the vastness of space, transferred from planet to planet by cosmic debris. In Mars's turbulent past, when asteroid impacts shook its surface with unimaginable force, fragments of rock could have been ejected into space, bearing within them hardy microorganisms or even genetic precursors. These tiny travelers might have survived the harsh journey through vacuum and radiation, landing on Earth or elsewhere, seeding new forms of life. Indeed, several meteorites of Martian origin have been found scattered across Earth's surface, their rocky faces bearing witness to cosmic journeys spanning millions of years. Among these, some fragments display mineralogical and chemical signatures that hint at past interactions with water, a key ingredient for life. More intriguingly, tiny structures within these stones have been interpreted by some scientists as potential fossilized microbial life, microscopic whispers from a world long silent. Though still debated, such findings fuel the dream that life on Earth might share an ancestral thread with that of Mars, part of a cosmic lineage entwined across space. The possibility that Earth itself could be a refuge for Martian life opens profound philosophical reflections. Our human origins have long been traced to a rich evolutionary tapestry on Earth, but could some strands of that fabric have deeper roots on the red planet? This idea challenges us to rethink our place in the cosmos, not as isolated beings, but as participants in an ancient interplanetary story. It blurs the boundaries between us and them, suggesting a shared heritage written in the language of DNA and stardust. If Martian civilization had reached a stage of technological or spiritual awareness before its decline, the notion of deliberate escape or exile becomes a poetic and haunting possibility. Faced with an unraveling climate, perhaps these beings engineered vessels, biological or mechanical, that crossed the void in search of sanctuary. While no direct evidence of such journeys exists, the human drive to explore and survive lends credibility to this vision. Could we be the inheritors of a lost lineage, carrying forward the dreams and hopes of a civilization that once gazed at the stars. Our current exploration of Mars, through robotic rovers and orbiting observatories, reveals a planet scarred but alive with mystery. Methane emissions detected intermittently in the atmosphere, unexplained magnetic anomalies, and recurring slope lineae all suggest dynamic processes still at work. These phenomena, subtle as they are, ignite questions. Are they echoes of ancient life or technology? Are they signals of a planet still holding on to some fragment of its past? Moreover, the philosophical idea that the silence of Mars might be a whisper, not a full stop, invites us to listen deeply. Across time and space, communication may take forms beyond our current understanding, encoded in radiation, hidden beneath ice, or awaiting discovery in subtle geological formations. The universe itself may be a vast archive of stories, waiting for patient explorers to decode them. As our reflections draw to a close, the image of Mars transforms from a barren, silent world to a cosmic storyteller, one that reaches across the void, touching Earth and perhaps beyond. This narrative of escape, exile, and continuity invites us to ponder not only where we come from, but where we might yet go. It connects the ancient past with a future filled with possibility, reminding us that the echoes of Mars may yet shape our destiny. And so, as we prepare to turn our gaze outward once more, ready to explore new chapters in our cosmic bedtime story, we carry with us the quiet hope that in the vastness of space, no story truly ends, only transforms, continues, and beckons as our journey through the red horizons of Mars draws toward its close. We find ourselves turning inward, toward a quieter, more intimate reflection beneath the vast, pale blue sky of our own fragile Earth. The story of Mars, with its mysteries, its whispers of ancient life or lost civilizations, is more than a tale of distant worlds. It is a mirror held gently up to our own planet, urging us to contemplate the delicate balance of existence, the inevitability of change, and the profound weight carried by knowledge and memory.
Mars's silent deserts and frozen poles tell a story of transformation on a scale both grand and sobering.
The once flowing rivers, now dry valleys and vanished seas, evoke an ancient world shaped by floods and ice ages, a planet that shifted from life-bearing to barren. This transformation invites us to ponder the forces that shape worlds, both natural and, perhaps, influenced by the actions of those who call them home. It is a quiet reminder that even the mightiest planetary systems are vulnerable to change. Our Earth, rich with life and vibrant in color, shares many geological and climatic traits with Mars. The rhythms of ice ages, the waxing and waning of seas, the rise and fall of atmospheric gases. All these cycles mark our planet's deep history. Yet, unlike Mars's quiet desolation, Earth still teems with life, a complex web woven delicately over billions of years. But the shadows of Mars's past whisper to us across the void. The possibility of collapse is ever present, a reminder of the fragile thread on which life hangs. Within this reflection lies a burden and a blessing. To learn from Mars is to understand the consequences of planetary change, whether through cosmic forces or through the subtle influence of intelligent beings. It challenges us to face the reality that knowledge carries responsibility, the responsibility to act with care, to nurture, and to preserve. The silence of a planet once vibrant, now hushed by time, is both a warning and an invitation to deeper stewardship of our world. The myths and stories that surround Mars enrich this reflection. Throughout human history, Mars has been a symbol of both war and peace, of change and endurance. These ancient tales, woven across cultures, mirror the anxieties and hopes we harbor about our own future. They remind us that planets are more than physical places. They are stages for stories of survival, loss, resilience, and renewal. Scientific discoveries reinforce these themes. The study of Mars's atmosphere, thin and fragile, stripped away over millennia by solar winds, parallels concerns about our own planet's protective layers and climate stability. The evidence of catastrophic floods, of shifting ice caps, of geological upheavals on Mars offers a cosmic echo of Earth's own environmental challenges. It asks us to listen carefully to understand not only the science but the silent narratives etched in stone and ice. As we reflect beneath our pale blue sky, the story of Mars invites a gentle but urgent meditation on hope. It reminds us that while planets may change, life is tenacious and adaptable. Our own species faces choices that will shape the future of this blue world. Choices about conservation, about balance, about coexistence with the delicate systems that sustain us. The echoes of a dead world offer both caution and inspiration, to recognize what is precious and to act before the silence falls here too. This chapter, our final one, seeks to weave together the lessons of Mars with the intimate story of Earth. It is a story not only of science but of philosophy, of humanity's place in the vast cosmos. We invite you to join us in this quiet contemplation, to listen to the echoes beneath the stars and to find wisdom in the space between worlds. As the night deepens and the stars shimmer softly overhead, we prepare to explore these reflections more deeply. Ahead lies an invitation to consider not only what Mars teaches us about the past, but what it might reveal about our path forward toward hope, responsibility,
and renewal as the gentle night unfolds beneath our pale blue sky.
We delve deeper into the reflections Mars offers, a silent parable of planetary fragility and the delicate dance of life and environment. Mars, with its scarred landscapes and whispered histories, holds a quiet lesson about the passage of time and the consequences of change that transcend its red dust. The once vibrant rivers of Mars, now long since dried, mirror Earth's own riverbeds, many altered or lost to human hands and shifting climates. The polar ice caps of Mars, shrinking and expanding in rhythm with ancient cycles, remind us of our own melting glaciers and the precarious balance of Earth's water. These parallels invite a profound meditation on the interconnections of planetary systems and the fragility of the conditions that sustain life. Geological evidence paints a portrait of Mars's slow transformation, from a world with a thicker atmosphere and liquid water on its surface to the arid, cold desert we see today. The mechanisms behind this change, solar winds stripping the atmosphere, volcanic activity waning, and magnetic fields fading, offer a stark contrast to Earth's protective shields. But the warning is clear. Planetary conditions are neither static nor guaranteed. Reflecting on Mars's decline urges us to consider our own impact on Earth's atmosphere and environment. The increasing levels of greenhouse gases, deforestation, and pollution speak to a world undergoing rapid change, with consequences that could echo those of the Red Planet. Mars's silence becomes a haunting refrain, a cosmic cautionary tale reminding us that a planet's life-supporting features are delicate and require vigilant care. Yet within this somber reflection there is also a wellspring of hope. Mars's story is not only one of loss, but of endurance, a testament to resilience in the face of harsh conditions. Microbial life may have persisted beneath its surface, shielded from the harshness above, surviving in niches we are only beginning to understand. This resilience encourages us to see potential within our own world and ourselves, to find strength in adaptation and stewardship. The burden of knowledge, the awareness of planetary change, is itself a gift, an invitation to act with foresight and humility. The ghost of Mars reminds us that knowledge without action may be powerless, but knowledge coupled with care can guide us toward preservation and renewal. It asks us to be guardians not only of Earth, but of the broader cosmic legacy we carry forward. Philosophically, this reflection touches on themes of impermanence and continuity. Just as Mars's story is etched into its rocks and valleys, so too is Earth's history written in its landscapes and living beings. Our understanding of these stories deepens our connection to the planet and to each other, fostering a sense of shared responsibility that transcends borders and generations. In the quiet moments beneath the stars, we may find that Mars's greatest gift is its role as a mirror, reflecting back to us both the fragility and the beauty of our pale blue world. It challenges us to listen, to learn, and to act before the silence deepens here as well. As we close this chapter of our cosmic bedtime story, we carry forward the gentle wisdom that Mars imparts. Its silent deserts and frozen plains become not only a testament to what was lost, but a beacon illuminating the path ahead, a path where knowledge, care, and hope guide our steps beneath the same stars that once shone over a distant, ancient world. With this reflection, our journey across worlds comes to a thoughtful pause, inviting us to rest beneath our pale blue sky, holding the echoes of Mars close, an eternal reminder of both the fragility and resilience of life.